Welcome to It's Not You, It's Grief, a safe space to have candid conversations surrounding the many faces of grief. How do you handle the process while moving forward and ultimately getting back to living in the moment? Come on this journey as we navigate grief through the art of storytelling. And now for your host, Ahira Smith.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of It's Not You, It's Grief. Tonight, I have a special guest, a friend, frat brother of mine, a fellow Kentuckian, love. This gentleman here, I had the pleasure of meeting online through his own podcast channel called Talkin NOIZ. And it was something that I was looking through the Facebook groups and I saw this podcast and I'm like, who is this? And it just so happens to be somebody who's a member of the greatest fraternity out there called Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And he is also co-hosting the show with his lovely wife, who happens to be a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit here and listen to my folks. And that's how we connected. And we started to converse. And I even got an opportunity to sit on his podcast a few times here and there. And so now I have him as a special guest on mine. And I'm so thankful and grateful. And I'd like to introduce you all to my frat brother, my friend, my mentor in the podcast world, Mr. Lloyd Spence. Hey, Lloyd.
Hey, first of all, what a great intro. Let's start with that. And I'm not going to wait to the end to tell you how proud of you I am, because this is so needed. And the fact that you're taking this on is amazing, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. This is something, like you said, it is needed more now than ever before, and I'm just so blessed to have good people like yourself and who are willing to share their stories with me about a subject that's been often tabooed, hush hush, especially in the African American communities. But we need to talk about it. We need to have that support not only behind closed doors but out in the open, so we can continue to help other people who are on this journey. So so let's just go ahead and get right into it. This month is May. It's a month that's recognized as not only Mother's Day, which is coming up on May 14th, but it's also Mental Health Awareness Month. And, you know, I would love it if you would be kind enough to kind of share your stories regarding grief, particularly with that of how much the significant incident or event in your life that has taken place where grief has really just exploded on your life.
Yeah, so for me, my first real true encounter that I was able to truly recognize of grief was in 2006. And it actually started in the beginning of 2006. That January, I lost my paternal grandfather. And then 5 months later, I lost my best friend who I call my brother. And then 4 months after that, I lost my mom. So all of that happened succinctly, like almost back to back to back. And that's when and it's weird because I kind of got through the first two. In my mind, I got through the first two okay, though they were devastating. Both of them were devastating to me, but the third one completely floored me. And so I didn't recover well from that one. And I really started spiraling because I didn't understand, and I'm trying to function as a person, and it just wasn't working well at all. As a matter of fact, I remember a very distinct moment about a week after my mom passed, she we had just buried her, and I just came back because she lived in Arkansas and I lived in Texas. And so we went to the funeral, we buried her, and then I came back to Texas after we kind of settled some of our affairs. And my boss called me and she said, well, just take a week off, kind of get yourself together, or take as much time as you need, really, but start with a week or whatever. And then whenever you're ready to come back, just come back. And I said, okay. So I took the week, and I was so frustrated sitting in the house, being emotional all the time and crying and carrying on. I was like, I can't keep doing this. So I got up that Monday of the following week, and I went to, because I was teaching at a college at the time, and I got up to go to teach in my class, and I entered the building. I was feeling okay, and I walked in, and I felt weird, but I didn't know something was wrong until one of my coworkers came up to me who hadn't seen me, and they came up to me and they said, "Oh my God, Lloyd, I'm so sorry." And immediately they hugged me, and I lost it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm at work falling apart. I said, this is crazy. So I realized in that moment, I wasn't fine. And I just started at that moment, just kind of falling apart. And it took me a while to get my feet back under me. Like I wasn't doing well at all. It was kind of a nightmare for like the next 6 or 7 months, maybe 8 months really, before I really got what I would consider back to me. I'll say this to you. I don't remember anything from September of 2006 to almost July of 2007. Like I got real, very vague memories of what was taking place in my life, other than I was just trying to mentally, emotionally survive. Mm-hmm. And it was real hard. And it wasn't until somebody recognized how bad I was suffering, and they said, I called somebody for you. And I was like, man, I don't need to see anybody. I'm good. I'm going to get through it. And like, nope, you got to see this dude. And I'll never forget, I met with the dude. I may be rushing it. Tell me if you think I'm rushing, I can stop.
You telling your story, brother. Go ahead.
I met with this guy, and he was a counselor. And he said to me, I understand. I see where you are. He said, listening to you talk, you sound like you're not like as far gone as you think you are, but you are stopping the process of grief. And I said, well, what do you mean I'm stopping it? He said, and I'll never forget this, and I use this to this day. He said, grief is like a clogged pipe. And we said, imagine your body being a clogged pipe and grief being Drano. I was like, Drano? Like, what does that mean? He said, have you ever used Drano before? I said, yeah. He said, does it work the first time? I said, not normally. Like normally you got to keep pouring it over and over and over again. He said, exactly. That's what grief is. He said, grief is this beautiful thing that stinks, that is hard to, you got to keep using it over and over and over again. But the more you keep pouring it down the sink of your emotions, of your heart, it begins to eat through the pain, and eventually you have flow again. Mm. And for me, that was exactly what I needed to hear. Because I had forced myself to stop crying. I had forced myself to stop feeling. I had forced myself to stop relating or connecting or just really doing anything that involved emotion, because I was being triggered everywhere I went. So I just said, I'm not going to allow that anymore. I'm just going to stop allowing things to trigger me and just cut kind of the world off and focus on what I want to focus on. I'll never forget, I tried to record, no, I didn't try. I did. I recorded a gospel album during that time in 2006, that December. on New Year's Eve, I decided I was going to record my first gospel album and dedicate it to my mom and my brother and my grandfather. And I did. And I remember at the completion of the night, I remember I passed out on the floor in the hallway. I just fell out on the floor in the hallway. And I just cried like a baby. Like I just laid there on the floor like a baby, and everybody kind of got around me and patted me on the back, and they were praying for me, and they were, and they eventually got me up. But here's the crazy part. I barely even remember the concert. I barely even remember it. So it was like I was a zombie going through my experiences, and I was trying to force myself to the other side. And then I realized that's just not how it works. And so that was my first real encounter with grief. And it was something, because I realized after that my experience was supposed to be the breakthrough for others. Because after that, I've been able to help a lot of people avoid all of that. Mm-hmm. Because I know what you're going to, like you said, I've been in this hole. And so I know the way out, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's helped a lot of people since then. But man, it was a really, really dark place. I mean, it was so dark at one point. I think it almost cost me my marriage, because I just couldn't find my way out. And my wife didn't know how to help me. Mm-hmm. She didn't know, and she kind of thought she should disengage and just let me get through it. Mm-hmm. And so she did. And even that hurt even more, because it really felt like I was all by myself. Like, I mean, I'm by myself in the fight for my life. And so we realized we didn't have the tools. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anything. So we were just trying to get through it. But mm-hmm. that darkness brought us to a greater light, and we got to the other side eventually.
That's deep, brother. I'm trying to hold it together, man. I'm feeling your story. I'm sorry, right there. I'm not trying to no. But this is what we know. No, yeah. This is what we need, because listen, the fact that you told me that your paternal grandfather, yeah, your brother, your best friend, and your mom passed away. Was that like within like 6-7 months?
It's about a 9-month span.
It's so you're talking about a 9-month span that you lost 3 of the closest people of your life.
Oh yeah.
And it took you about another 9 months or so to deal with that, man. You had, that there's something about those 3. Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, Sora. There were times I didn't think I'd come back. I didn't think I'd make it back. Because it was so, I leaned on those 3 people in my life so much. And here's the irony. The year I got married, my grandfather died. And my grandfather was like my conscience, my voice. Mm-hmm. And he was teaching me, because I had like graduated college, and I just, kind of finished up there, and I just got married. And so he was kind of guiding me through manhood still. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so God kind of, if I can say that, is that okay? I don't know if God kind of snatched that away from me. And I was like, so I was leaning on that was my other my maternal grandfather. Okay. And so when he left, then I said, okay, well, now I got to lean on my other grandfather. Right. And so then he was gone. And then my best friend was kind of also that spiritual. He and my brother was like my accountability. Mm-hmm. So we talked every Sunday, right after football season, right after the football games, or right after the basketball games. We talked every Sunday for years. And so that was another accountability and a consciousness that was helping me grow. And then, of course, there's my mom. Right. So when all of that's been stripped away, that's a lot. It's just you and God at that point. Now you're like, and sometimes, and at the time, you don't know that's why it's being stripped away. You're just like, what is happening? Why is my entire world collapsing like this? and I'm angry and dare I say, if I can say this,
you can say, listen, look,
right.
I'm going to put a pin, we're going to pin it right there. Listen,
Go ahead.
you can say whatever you want to
Thank you,
say
sir.
on this podcast.
Thank you, sir.
One thing about me, listen, I know you were like, figure it out, brother. Listen to me very carefully.
That's all.
I listen to me very carefully. One thing about me and what I want to be crystal clear about with this podcast.
Yeah.
My thing is for folks to be organic.
Yeah.
To be authentic, to have support, be intentional, and most importantly, safe. So you can speak freely
this
here.
Is good.
Okay? You can say great. God, you can say the universe. I have no
How have
problems
you said?
Right.
Right.
You're good with me. If you felt like a cuss word need to come out, I can put an explicit little blurb in there.
Just put that out there. I don't know if I'm there yet, but just,
you're
if I
fine.
need to.
You good. Be authentic, bro. You got it.
Okay. So I'll say this. For me, I'll be honest. I'll be fully even more transparent. I was really pissed at God. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you snatching away everybody and everything that means something to me?
Okay.
And so that wrestling battle, I'll never forget. This is gonna really be like a moment. I'm having one of the greatest days I've had as a professor in a long time, right? Mm-hmm. This was in the month of May. Matter of fact, it was the anniversary of my brother's death was last weekend.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was last weekend. Okay. And so I'm having one of the greatest days that I've had in a long time. I just taught my class that day. It was amazing. My daughter's report card came out. I picked her up from school. All A's. We're great. Called the wife. How was your day? Oh, baby, it was amazing. Great day. I said, okay, well, let's kick back to some movies and some pizza. And me and the baby, we'll go get some food and the movies and bring it on home. And we stopped at Blockbuster and got some movies. And we stopped it. And we're driving home. And I'll never forget, we're driving home to this particular street. That's where my home was. And I get to the place where I'm supposed to turn to go to my home. And that's when I got the call that my brother died. And I go, what? Because it didn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And he said he went to sleep. He complained about a headache, went to sleep, never woke up again. And I'm like, I don't understand. So I get home and I'm crushed. And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm bawling. And I hear God say to me, right now, in this moment, I just need you to tell me thank you. And I'm like, no, I don't know about no thank yous. This don't feel like a thank you moment. And I can just feel it. I can feel as we said in the church, I can feel a praise welling up in me. And I'm going, God, you're asking for a lot right now. And so out of just obedience, I said it. And I'll admit, there was a measure of relief that came in that moment. So I was able to kind of, if you can understand this, kind of let the air out of the tire a little bit and kind of get some of the pressure off of me in that moment. So for that moment, I did feel a little better doing that. But I still was completely lost. Like, why? But it still doesn't explain. And people think when people die, that's the moment they're needed. So that's why people call you right after somebody dies. They feel like I'm supposed to bring a pie, or I'm supposed to bring a chicken, or I'm supposed to come pat you on the back, or a pastor thinks he's supposed to come give you these magical words of encouragement. It takes none of that works, and none of that helps really. It's nice. It's a nice gesture, and we appreciate it, but it doesn't really. And by the way, in that moment that I'm leading up to the funeral, it's okay to have it, but after a while, I need people to understand, if I'm the dartboard and you're all throwing darts of love and affection toward me, the only thing you're really doing is just pinning yourself to me and making me hold the responsibility of holding all of you. That's
Mm.
hard. That's
Mm.
incredibly difficult to try
Yes.
to hold up my own emotions and your feelings too.
Yes.
Does it make sense? Is that
Oh, it does make sense when people are propelling their energy on you and they're trying to comfort you and you're dealing with so much emotion. You're trying to process the news of you losing your, in this case, your brother.
right?
And you have your wife and you have your daughter here. And then that's just your own nucleus. Let's not forget your brother and his family, trying to
Right,
be there for them and
right.
supporting y'all, supporting each other. And then you got everybody who's trying to, again, project their support on you. And it's like, that's why I think sometimes people say, as much as folks, when the initial grief is happening and everybody feels like they need to come together at that moment, that's to me, wait a while, wait a week or
No
two,
question.
wait a couple of months down the road, like, hey, I'm kind of giving you space, checking in on you.
Yeah.
Talk to me. What's going on? Let you know I love you. You know, that to me is a clear defining moment to understand the magnitude of how grief works and how it impacts people.
100% agree, 100% correct. I've learned to sit back now and allow, if I can use this analogy, the room to clear so that the person and I can now get to the healing.
Right.
Because the healing doesn't happen in the moment of the death
Nope.
or the burial. It
Correct.
happens afterwards. And that's because what always inevitably happens after you lose someone is that there's this barrage and then there's silence.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you survive your grief is how you manage the silence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that people do not understand. Because if I don't have the tools to deal with this when no one is watching,
right,
and when no one is around to help me process any of it, that's when bad things tend to happen. That's when bad thoughts tend to happen. That's when you find yourself spiraling because you don't have the answers or even know how to ask the right questions. In the beginning, I'm not even sure I knew what the questions were. Like none of it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm fighting that part. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to first of all, I don't understand why you did this.
Right.
Why did you do this? Like, this guy had so much potential. This guy was young. This guy wasn't sick. This guy wasn't, and so
those are the hard, those are the hard questions. I want to interrupt, but those are the ones that are so tricky, because let's just be clear, when our elders, our grandparents are making that transition, as much as it sucks to see them go, we understand, they're 75, they're 85. It hurts because they've been with you so long, and it's hard to imagine Big Mama not there at the family dinner. I get that. But when it comes to our classmates, our friends who are same age, are like, wait a minute, you 41. Wait, what?
What is this?
What
is this?
What did we do? I used to make a joke, and it was something to kind of take the edge off. But I used to say, I'm like, yo, what is it about my generation X where we ain't making it past 40, 45, and 50?
Right.
Because we seeing people like Harry Belafonte living to 95. We're seeing Soror Grace Bumbury passing at 85. Like, that's good. You want to be at that level. But when it comes to people that we grew up with, you're like, wait a minute, he died. He had a heart attack. What? 38, 42, 46? What is this? So I totally respect that, and I don't mean to go off like that.
No, you're good. That's exactly.
But those are the questions. It's the questions that still plague a lot of us when it's young. When it's young, when it's whether it's a teenager or a baby, like they're so young. it's tricky. It's tricky. So,
and I'll just add to what you just said, because you're spot on. So the dynamic of that year for me was older grandfather who had cancer, right? So I could kind of see that one, even though it was surprising, I could still kind of see it coming. Brother who didn't have any known sicknesses to me, 32 years old, didn't see that coming at all. Or 31, he was 31, didn't see that coming at all. Mom, who had a battle with sicknesses and some drug issues or whatever, and like it was just, health up and down or whatever, but still,
you're never prepared for that.
Her death was interesting as well, because so in 2001 she got deathly sick, and my grandmother called me, because my grandmother lives in Arkansas as well, and she was like, "You need to get here, because this might be it." And so in my mind, I wasn't going to go to a funeral. I was going to go to a fight. So I'm going to go and I'm going to pray my mom through this. I don't care if I got to kneel at her bedside for the next whatever days. I'm going for a fight. It's me and the devil. What's up? What you want to do? What you want to do? Right? And so I spent that whole entire time I was there. It was CCU. And so they only let you in a certain couple of hours or whatever. But every hour that they let me in that room, I'd spend the entire hour just praying over her, excuse me, speaking life over her, speaking healing over her, and just believing that she would live. And so I was there about 5, 6, 7 days. And after that last day, the doctor said, "Yo, listen, you got me believing, because she's getting better. She's gotten better. In the days that you've been here, she's gotten better. I think she's going to be okay." Good. My work here is done. I got in my car, drove back home. We good. So fast forward 5 years later, I get the exact same call. My grandmother says, and the reason why she kept calling me, because I'm the oldest son. And even though she was married, for some reason, the way her situation was, I had the power of attorney. Weird in its own right. But anyway. So she called me. She said, "You got to come again." I was like, "No problem. We fighting again? Whatever. Let's go. You want round two?
You fighting for mom, son. What? Fighting for mom.
What's up? Right? Yeah. So I drive again, and I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. Because me and God like this, son. We like this, son. We tight like that. So I'm riding in the car by myself, and God said, "Let me ask you a question. What kind of life you want your mom to have?" And I said, "That's an easy question. I want to have the best life she could possibly have. What are you talking about? I want to have everything. I want to have the best life she can have." Never forget these words as long as I live. God said to me, "Well, son, don't you know that eternal life, best life you can possibly have?" And it was at that moment I knew I wasn't going for a fight this time. I was going for a funeral. I knew it. There's no question about it in my mind. And when I walked into that room and I saw her laying in that bed, fighting for us, fighting for my little brother, my little sister, her mother, her husband, who's my stepfather, which I say stepfather, but he's my father. He's my father. I knew. There's no question. And it was ironic. What was crazy is he's looking at me for answers. My brother's looking at me for answers. My grandmother's looking at me like she knows what's supposed to happen, but she just needs me to know. Right. And when I looked at my mom, I knew. I said, "Yeah, we gotta take her off the machines, and whatever God decides at that point, it's great. But I can't let her sit here and suffer and fight, and she's dying. She's fighting and she's trying to stay here, and it was destroying me. It was destroying me. And so as soon as I told her, I whispered in her ear, And I said, Mom, it's okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. And I said, you can, if you need to go, you can go. And as soon as we took her off the ventilator, it was like maybe 2 or 3 minutes after that, she, fighting for her breath or whatever. And then she finally, I watched her die. Now, I'll say this to you. I hate that is the last image of her that I have. Because in my grief, it was torturous. And I know you understand what I'm saying when I say that to you. Because to watch, I don't think people understand what it's like to watch. Someone leave you. It's a memory that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
It changes you.
It changes you.
It changes you so much, because like you said, that's not what she would have wanted. And as much as we would want our parents or our loved ones to still be with us, not like that, and to, sit there and to stand there and watch it. I had one of my brothers, he left, he couldn't do it. My other brother was there when my dad and I and his siblings, everybody was there. And to watch that, it's like, and so, like you said, the last image of your mom, and then when you mentioned of the hell you were basically in.
Oh yeah.
Without question, I know somewhere in your foggy haze there was depression that was sitting in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can talk about that. Yeah.
Because of that image that you had of your mom. You can't sit there and tell me you didn't have no PTSD.
Right.
Those nightmares on top of the grief.
No question about it.
And so
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
That part of it also doesn't get discussed enough, because we haven't really, in the mental health space, in my humble opinion, especially in the Black community, we have not created sustainable paths back from those moments to where we can easily, as easy as grief can be, if you understand what I'm saying, but be able to point people in the direction that they should start in to start their journey. And so because we haven't done that, because that's such a missing component in our lives and in our communities, and we try to watch, I'm going to say something, and I don't mean to offend your listeners, but it's just real. And I can say this having served as a pastor for years and then walked away from that. Or in some capacity walked away from that. That's a whole nother show. But we'll get
to that later.
Right, that's a whole nother show. But I'll say we've tried to churchify the answers and gloss over it, like all you need is a dab of Jesus and you're gonna be fine. And that's simply that's like a small percentage of truth, because it's not as simple as all I have to do is pray about it. It's not nearly that simple. Prayer helps tremendously, but it's unless you get the actual help you need, or you can see the path by which you need to function or go down, or the steps, you won't. I'm sorry, but I've seen it over and over again. People aren't making it, and their grief extends years.
Oh yeah.
Years further than it's supposed to, because no one is standing there saying, bro, sis, it's more than that. It's more than that. I've watched over the years, I call you Sora because I love you. Yeah. So I'm gonna say Sora. Because we close like that.
We close, so, yeah, absolutely.
Sora, I've watched people not deal with their grief, and has destroyed their marriage.
Yep.
I've watched them destroy them spiritually.
Yep.
I've watched them damage their relationship with their kids.
Yep.
I've watched some things because they didn't have the tools, or they weren't willing to go down the path. The thing that we don't understand is that we want to run from grief, and the truth is we're supposed to run towards it.
Run with it. Let's be clear. We have to run with it. We have to learn to understand that this is not something that's it's not a situation where, okay, Grandpa Joe, he been gone for 10 months. I think that's enough time for us, we can go ahead and do that. It don't work like that.
Because Black people got to get over it mentality. Black people got to get over it. We got to get over it at some point.
But unfortunately, historically, we've never gotten over it. Let's be clear. We don't get over. But you're right, because of the mentality. Oh, just get over it, or just pray about it. And again, it doesn't work like that. As I listen to your story, a couple of things have resonated with me in terms of the fact that you had your grandfather passed, your brother passed, and your mom passed. And when you were telling me about the conversation that you had between you and God, something just flew to my head. It was like, you know what? Something my dad and my grandmother always used to tell us when we were growing up: God will remove everything and everyone out your life so he can have your undivided attention. And I think at that moment,
yes,
that's what happened. Was that, can we talk now? Because you have these people here that I've placed in your life, but it's like you might be talking more to them than to me. I need you to talk with me. So that was the first thing that came up.
I had thought we had been,
and you know what,
the whole time,
right. And but it's never. But we always feel like that. But when you ever really want to know a person's true character, let a death occur.
Yeah.
Directly or indirectly, you'll see people. You'll see all types of stuff. You're like, what the hell? It's like, okay, that's real. And so, you can't tell me that we'll be talking about this, your spirituality is shifted. Listen, it doesn't matter, especially when it comes to your parents. It doesn't matter how many times you might have had conversations with your parents or your grandparents, whoever you're closest with, about how they want to go, how they want to make that, what their arrangements are, transitions, or seeing them sick. You'll be like, don't worry about it, moms, we got it. Don't worry about it, pops, we're good. You're never prepared for it.
No.
There is no preparation for that. There's no preparation of any kind when you're losing someone you love to death. Let's be clear on that. And so listening to you talking about, you were fighting for not only your life, your existence.
Yeah.
That it changed the relationships between that of your own nucleus with your wife. There's no question. I'm sure that the impact of the grief that you and the depression and the PTSD also impacted the relationship that you had with your daughter, as far as the connect or maybe a disconnect might have taken place on top of that.
Well, what's interesting, and maybe, and you know what, I've never explored it to what shifted.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say this: I used her.
Used who?
As an emotional anchor, for sure.
Your daughter or your wife?
My daughter, for sure.
Okay.
Because we would go do things. We would go do. So we were already doing things, and so I decided once I was going through the emotional challenges, I said, well, listen, I'm gonna, I got to find an outlet. I got to have something. So I would ramp up let's go to the movies. Let's go hang out. Let's go. And she loves, she's young. She don't know no better. So she was always with me. So she became like a shield for me to not have to face certain things. And that's probably bad. In fact, I'm sure it's bad. But it was the reality. And so I may, in that regard, probably did damage it a little bit. And because she
But you didn't know. But you
be
didn't
my
know at the
shield.
time. You didn't know at the time.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, you
You
don't
just
know.
thought
Right,
you
right,
spent, listen, you spending quality time with your baby girl. You know,
right.
you just lost your mom. You're like, look, time is precious, you know, parent, child, you know, let's do some stuff. You didn't know then like
Yeah.
you know now. So looking back on it, you know, the relate you you can't sit there and say that you were the same person before 2006 that you are now. If you're the same
Oh
person
yeah.
from that time to now, something is completely off because there's no way. There's
Yeah, no, I
no
didn't
way.
start really doing the work of healing until that moment with the counselor in 2007. And that was the middle of 2007. And then I started, okay, I got to work on this and I got to find me again. And then once I did that, then it started kind of coming back together. But I'll tell you, it's the thing that I think that I appreciate more than anything of that time in my, if I can say it this way, relationship with grief is that I understood and learned to understand that it wasn't an enemy of mine. It really was trying to help me to heal. And you know, it's funny. There's a movie that I accidentally took both my daughters to because we're all Pixar and Disney fans.
Hey, I'm about that. I'm about that Pixar life.
We are about that Pixar life.
What? You ain't said but a word, son. I love me some Disney.
And I'm trying to remember the name of the movie, and I apologize to your listeners.
Is it the one
but
about about the emotions, the different emotions?
The one about the emotions.
I know what you're talking about.
And I'll never forget. There's a scene in that movie where the girl, sadness is the problem. Because nobody wants sadness to be around, and nobody wants sadness to have her way. And sadness is like, man, I'm just trying to get y'all to the other side. I know the way. And so that's what it is. It's excuse me. I didn't realize that grief really knew the way. Grief knew that if you get past denial, and if you get past anger, and if you get past frustration and depression and PTSD, on the other side of all of that is a measure of peace. And I didn't realize that. And now let me just say this. This is, you want to know, you said Mother's Day is coming up, so I'll tell you.
No, really quick, before you go, the movie's called Inside Out. Yeah. It's called Inside Out.
Inside Out. That's the
name
of the movie. Yeah. Brilliant movie. But I'll tell you this. I didn't, now I'll say this. That doesn't mean that it still doesn't hurt. I still to this day cannot stand. I've grown to not be able to stand, and this is, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. I don't like Mother's Day anymore. I don't. I don't like it. Yeah. I accept it for what it is because I have a wife who has given me the gift of two beautiful daughters. And so we want to honor and celebrate her. I have a 99-year-old grandmother who I haven't been able to celebrate in 3 years. So we're going to do some nice things for her for this, you know, Mother's Day, and an aunt, you know. So I want to celebrate the people in my life that are mothers. But for me personally, for the last 17 years, it has sucked. It has been a really, really terrible experience. And it has gone from some years I'm angry, and some years I go into a small bout of depression, and some years I've just detached and been numb. To the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've been able to find relief. And I may shed a few tears, and I'll probably do the same thing this year. And then I'll get through it. And so it gets easier if that's a thing. I don't know if that's a thing, but it seems like it gets a little, easier is probably the wrong word, manageable. It gets a little more manageable. over time, but it's still hard. And by the way, it's my mom, so it's probably supposed to be hard, right?
It is.
Like, that's my mom.
We grieve because we love, bro.
Right, we grieve because we love. Yeah. So I'm okay with it being hard. I'm okay with accepting that it's hard. Mm-hmm. I just need to be able to keep telling, but I think on the journey, you have to keep telling yourself that. You have to keep telling yourself, this is okay. For you to feel this in this moment and allow it to be, that's okay. And, now my wife is going through some things, whatever, which is a whole other topic as well. But it's like, we have to get to a place in our minds and our hearts where grief is not our enemy anymore, where we understand that grief is that thing. It's the tour guide to back to peace. And it's, you know what it is?
What is it?
It's the person in the escape room with you that's done it before. And you know what I mean? They've done this before. So they know the answers and they know where all the clues are. And if you just stop trying to figure it out on your own and listen to their wisdom, they'll get you through the experience.
You know what? That's a heck of an analogy, because I ain't going to lie. I've done maybe one escape room in my life and I completely sucked at it. And I did about maybe 5 clues and there was like 12 left. And I'm like, okay, we just stuck as Chuck. I don't know what else to do.
Right.
But with grief, it's an ongoing learning journey. And I think what people need to really understand is that it is definitely be a roller coaster ride. Yeah. After Mother's Day, guess what? Mom's birthday is coming up. Or her favorite holiday, Thanksgiving, all of that stuff is still going to be around because our memories is still with us on those moments. So it's okay not to be okay when it comes to the holidays. It's okay not to be okay if you want to be alone on Mom's birthday. It's okay not to be okay on Mother's Day or whatever day that's, resonates with you because somebody you love is not there. We just have to, again, be transparent with that, and just be consistent in working on being better. I had a soror ask me tonight, she's like, what are you doing for Mother's Day? I said, not a damn thing. Excuse my language. I'm not doing that. I told her if it's up to me, hopefully I'll stay off of social media. I said, I'll definitely, have my podcast going on a special Mother's Day episode. Right. I said, but it's not, I don't want to impede on other people's recognition of celebrating their moms. But, if I get one more freaking text about getting Olive Garden 25% off to celebrate moms, or an edible arrangement, shout out to Olive Garden and edible arrangements, no disrespect, but if I get another text from you all talking about my mom stuff,
I'll share something with you now. I'm gonna try to share it with my wife. I'm trying to say it without my wife hearing it. There was a gift that I wanted to buy her, and the attempt to buy it was so emotionally triggering. I had to stop. I was like, I can't, this ain't the time. I said, maybe I'll get it for a birthday or something like that. But it's too hard to get this for Mother's Day because I can't get it for the person I really want to get it for. So I need to do it differently. I'm going to get it, but not this way. I can't get it that way. And I love what you just said, and I think it bears repeating. I think you have to grow to the place where you're giving yourself permission to be able to feel that and not allowing, because one of the things that happens on the journey is that you feel guilty and about grieving. You're like, I feel guilty. And then I had to stop. I said, why do I feel guilty? It's my mom. It's my mom. Right. But why am I feeling guilty about, and I had to help my wife understand that as well, because I don't think I'd go into this like silent state and she's like, well, why are you it feels like you're detached from Mother's Day. I said, I am. And she
Everybody
said, but
grieves
it's my
differently.
Mother's Day. Right. It's you as a mother experiencing Mother's Day. That's great for you. This day is not great for me. And it clicked. And she was like, oh my God. And, you know, and again, I don't want you. So I detached from her because I want her to enjoy her day.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to, you've earned everything you're getting. All this
Right.
love they're pouring out on you, I'm pouring out on you. You've earned that. So enjoy your day. I'll go sit in this corner and go figure this out.
You know,
because I got to figure it out. I got to get through this day. And you're right. You know, for some years I tried to do a little post. Maybe that made me feel better. It did not. Trying to go to see the positive post of friends, that didn't help. So the last few years I've done what you've done. I've kind of stayed off. And that helps a little. But there are certain mothers I do want to honor because I appreciate the contribution or whatever. So I try to balance it out or whatever.
Right.
But I tell you, the challenging part of it all is what you just said, giving yourself the permission to be able to feel it and not beat yourself down over feeling it. It's okay.
We have to, because of the fact that we're going up against a society mentality that tells us, oh, we shouldn't. You know, when you're dealing with some companies or some businesses that only give you 3 days of bereavement, you can keep those 3 days. I'm out. You know, I give credit for employers who were like, look, take as much time as you need.
Yeah,
good looking out,
I was
because
blessed. Yeah,
I don't know too many people say that, because I'll be honest with you, I don't even know when I'll be back. But thank you for putting that out there, because that's important to us. But again, because before the pandemic, everything was like so pressed on. You're like, okay, we need you back in the office. And I'm like, dude, I just lost my dad.
Yeah.
You really need me, you know, or you just lost your mom. I think they'll be okay, you know, and we have to change the mindset. And the first thing we need to do in order to change the mindset about grief, we have to change the narrative in our head about grief. Mm-hmm. We're combating a historical context when it comes to grief, in especially in people of color, the African American communities. As you said earlier, you know, just take it to Jesus and give it to the cross. Well, he took my mom, he took my brother, he took a lot. Yeah. Can I have something? When am I getting it back? You know, that's what those questions are like. Okay, you took it. Can I have it back now? And so again, that, you know, you mentioned about your spiritual practice. Without question, it shifted, it changed just based on the stories that you were able to share with us.
Right.
Looking at where you are now, what do you feel your spiritual practice says regarding grief in terms of hope or courage?
I think I've allowed myself to become, through the journey of getting to the other side, way more authentic than I think I was before.
Okay.
And so I don't have to hide what I'm feeling anymore. I can live that truth, and in the authenticity of that truth, with a comfort and a clarity that I didn't have before. And I like that. I don't have to, you know, I'm working on some things behind the scenes of the company, but I'm going to give you and your listeners a sneak preview of the statement of one of the things I'm working on. But I'm working on this thing, and in my prayer time, a statement came to me, and I knew it was transformative and life-changing. I no longer, now that I'm on the other side, have to be the Christian the world wants me to be. I get to be the man that God created me to be, whatever that looks like. And grief taught me that. because all of the things that were promised prior to the losses, in my mind, came crumbling down, and no amount of money and no amount of ability or talent could have prevented any of those things from happening. So with that being said, why am I trying to live my life in a way that is less than the way that I want to live it? My relationship with God became way more authentic on the other side of grief. And so I am no longer living to measure anybody else's standard. I'm living to make him happy with who I am and what he created me to be and do. And if he's content with who I am, if he's content when I call somebody a nigga, or when I say, I tell somebody that he's an asshole or whatever, if he's content with that and he's not bothered by it, then why should I be? And I don't have to worry about your opinion anymore. And it has helped me to find my freedom spiritually, and to find him more deeply. And I love that. I love that about it. So on the other side of it, there is a peace that you can find. To me, that is the peace that passes all understanding. When I don't care what you think anymore, or I don't care that you don't understand, that doesn't bother me anymore. You're just gonna have to live a life not understanding. That's not my problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it has allowed me to find joy again and peace, and I'm just grateful for it. I really am, and that's what I pray and hope for anyone that is going through this process like you and I have gone through. That's why I'm so proud of you for starting this, because it takes a measure of reconciliation to be able to say to yourself, I'm at a place now where I get it, and I want others to get it too. That's a very sacrificial thing, and it's powerful, and there's a healing even in that. Every time you do this, you're healing more and more and more, and that's powerful to me, because that's what life is supposed to be about. We are supposed to go through, experience, get through, and then go back and tell someone else how to do it. One of my favorite stories, and I'll shut up. One of my favorite stories.
Don't shut up. Talk.
One of my favorite stories.
I'm gonna take a sip of water. Go ahead.
Take a sip of water. Take a sip of water. But one of my favorite stories is the guy who fell in a hole, and he fell in this hole, and he's in this hole, and it's dark, and he can't see anything, but he can see up and see where he fell from, and he's on the street. And so this pastor walks by, and he says, Pastor, can you help me? And the pastor writes out a prayer, throws it in the hole, walks on. And then this police officer comes by and says, yo, man, can you help me? Can you help me? And the police officer says, hold on, I'm going to go get some help. And he doesn't come back for a long, long time or whatever. Meanwhile, one of his friends, Ray, comes by. Ray says, Ray, hey, it's me, man. I'm down in this hole. I'm stuck. He said, how'd you get down there? He said, man, I just fell in the hole. He said, cool. Ray jumps in the hole, and he says, yo, Ray, what are you doing? Why are you jumping in the hole? Now we're both in this hole. He said, yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out. And I'm telling you, that's what this podcast is. For somebody who is cruising through Spotify, and they didn't know, and they're going through, and they thought they were supposed to be looking for some song or some this or some that. This podcast is designed to be the way out. And they're going to hear one of these episodes, whether it's you and I or you and somebody else, or just you by yourself. And they're going to go, that's how I get out? That's how I get to the other side? Yo, I've been waiting for this answer. And that's what we are designed to be. So I applaud you, man. That's why it's a joy for me to do this with you, because I know what it means. I know what life is on the other side, and it's good, and it's nice, and it's peaceful. I'm building a company because of the healing.
Yeah, that's wow. It's like what you said so much. I am so humble.
Bless you. Bless you. You're doing, listen, it's a labor of a love, because people will never understand what it's like to put yourself out there and your story out there to be heard in the most vulnerable possible way. And you're doing it. And I'm telling you, lives are going to change because of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful sacrificial act, and I applaud you for it. I'm humbled to be a part of this journey with you, and I'm grateful. I really am. Yeah.
A sip of water.
Sip your water, because this is one of them sip your water moments.
It is of little parts. But
I get it.
I mean,
I get it. I ain't even think to bring me no water. That's how dumb I am. I'm over here feeling it as well, trying to hold back my emotions.
Man, I didn't bring no water. I told you, you can get your tissue out right now for all I care, man. This is real talk, though. This is what it's all about, because there have been moments, on our journey towards healing. Like, this is hard. And it's one of those things where you feel lonely.
Yeah.
Yet I know in my heart and in my mind and just in my overall connection with people, I'm not alone, and there's a difference. Mm-hmm. So, hearing this from you is so. Thank you.
Listen, again, an honor to be a part of this, and I'm gonna tell you something, and I don't think I've told you this, even when we're letting you guys behind the fourth wall now. Even when we talked about this before you started it, I don't think I told you how incredibly honored I was to hear that you were even thinking about doing it. Like, I was like, wow, that's something. Because it's hard. I know it's hard. Know it's hard.
Right.
And to put yourself directly in the way of people's pain, and to say to them, I'm going to help you find your way.
Right.
To be willing to jump in the hole with so many people to help them see the way out. That's amazing.
Look, brother, I'm telling you, I trust me. Look, I did not get here. A lot of us did not get here without people helping us along the way.
No question about it.
We can't make it through this thing called life without support of some kind, whether people were praying with us, whether it was people listening to us, people just sitting there holding our hands, and even our enemies. Because, not everybody's prayers are for you. There are some that like to trip you up. And even that is a testimony in itself, because it pushes you to be like, you see me in a vulnerable state, but I know who got me through this state.
Absolutely. So, well,
it's listen, real.
I encourage you to keep going.
Thank you.
I encourage you to to press forward, because lives are going to change. I'm convinced of it. People don't know it yet, but they're about to be helped by something that is so desperately needed. Because sometimes the greatest thing that you can have in your journey to healing is just somebody that understands. They understand, and they can help talk you through it.
I agree, and that's why I'm so humbled that you're here, because sometimes when you're so close to the situation, it's hard for people to hear. And that's why I appreciate you and my fellow guests who's come on this podcast to share your stories and your testimonies, because it's what it is. It's a testimony. And you mentioned several times throughout tonight's episode that you're getting over it, not getting over, but you're getting to the other side. It doesn't mean that you're you're not still walking with it.
No question. Yeah. I still
you are still continuing on your journey of healing. And
if
I
we
love you
can
for
help
it.
people to understand that it is a continual journey.
Mm-hmm.
17 years. It's been 17 years since my mom passed. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to feel it Sunday. I was feeling it in this conversation. I'm going to feel it. Yeah. That's just how it is.
Yeah. But you know what though? You're a walking testimony, brother. You are, and trust me, I have nothing but the utmost love and respect for you. And I just thank you. I'm so humbled that you shared your story with me and my audience, with your moms and your brother and your grandfather. And even though it's been 17 years, I still offer my condolences to you because they're still with you.
Yeah.
They're still with you. So, but thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you have many things to do. Yeah,
you got me
too. Tell Stormworld, let me know when next time y'all have game night. I'm on it. I'm on my popcorn. I'm going to be on it. I'm ready. That I can't do that game where you got to figure out by the first letter. I can't do that when that's above my head, but I can do some Uno, some pity pat, spade, something. So I'm on
it. There you go.
Who's seen it? Whatever that game is, I'm on it. Thank you so much for joining me, brother. I love you so much. We'll talk again. And for everybody who's listening, thank you so much for joining me on this special episode of It's Not You, It's Grief. Please check out previous episodes here. The healing can begin with you when you're ready, and there are people like myself and my fellow frat brother here who can help you with this on this journey as well. You're not in it by yourself. So, but nevertheless, hope everybody has a blessed day, blessed night whenever you listen to this.
Thank you for listening, being intentional, and sharing this moment with us. We at It's Not You, It's Grief deeply understand the many facets of grieving, and we want to make sure we can be here for you. Again, thank you for listening, and tune in again wherever you subscribe to podcasts. We look forward to seeing you next time. Be well.